Hello. In my last video, I shared a basic intro and very simple review of ABLUR. And one thing that I think most people are thinking is ABLUR worth replacing SketchUp? And the short answer is, it depends on your use case. So in this video, I want to do a deeper comparison between ABLUR and SketchUp from the perspective of me, a professional indie comic artist and creator who uses 3D mainly for environments and backgrounds. So two quick notes before we start. So first, ABLUR just had its global release. So this isn't like a final verdict on what the software could become, just where it stands right now. And second, this comparison is specifically from an artist's workflow perspective and not like someone who does architecture or is trying to build 3D parts for printing and such, right? So with that context in mind, let's get into it. All right, there's going to be 5 parts, and part 1 is ease of use, and this is where ABLUR wins. So let's start with ease of use because this is where ABLUR really shines. And ABLUR is really quick to pick up. The interface is clean, workflow pretty straightforward, and you can go from opening the program to building like your scene and your lighting and everything really fast. So for artists who don't want to spend like a really long time learning the 3D software and just want something that works, this is pretty big, right? But SketchUp, in comparison, is really powerful but more technical. And there's like a steeper learning curve and more tools to understand. Yeah, so if your priority is speed and simplicity, then ABLUR definitely wins this category. Part 2, price and accessibility. This is another ABLUR win, slightly. Now, next is we're going to talk about the pricing. So SketchUp's pricing has gone up pretty significantly over the years. Even if you get it on sale, it's still expensive. But it's like a really solid tool. But the subscription cost can be a pretty big barrier, especially for newer artists and people who just do this for a hobby, right? But ABLUR is much more accessible and it has like a lower cost, simpler onboarding. Like you can really just jump in and start going, and that makes it a lot easier for artists to just experiment with the 3D tools without committing to like a really big investment. But I will say, this is where I kind of am iffy on it, is that ABLUR is only available on Windows right now. They do plan a Mac release, but there's no window of that. And SketchUp right now is available for many, like it's available on tablets and Mac and everything. So that's definitely going to be like a barrier. I think they were just really wanting to launch it like as soon as possible. But yeah, the price is definitely like way cheaper though. So that's a big win for for artists who are trying to save here and there. All right, let's get to part 3, customization and control, and this is where SketchUp wins. So SketchUp just still leads over ABLUR, but maybe ABLUR will change. I don't know. But anyway, SketchUp gives you way more control, like deeper control over like your geometry, camera placement, organizing scenes and editing. And you can build from scratch, modify models really extensively, and then use plugins to extend that functionality. And you can't do that with ABLUR. So if you're working on really complex environments or need specific layouts and camera angles and such, SketchUp gives you that kind of flexibility. But ABLUR is more limited, and that might be intentional because it prioritizes speed and accessibility over those deeper customizations. It's really for a lot of artists who don't like to fiddle too much with their backgrounds and just really want to get something done. Because for a lot of people, that's that's what they don't want to do. I don't know, but yeah. So which one is better really depends on how much control you need. But for like me, who likes a lot of customization, this is where SketchUp wins. And part 4, performance and large files. SketchUp again wins. Performance is another major difference between ABLUR and SketchUp, especially for professional workflows. Um, if you've seen like the Acon 3D website, there's a lot of models and some of them are really big. And I need those big files because those are usually the ones that have like those heavy city backgrounds. And I don't want to spend a lot of time drawing stuff like that because I know, just from my perspective, I know that readers don't really go in depth and look at the backgrounds like that kind of stuff too much. But I know some people like to draw that, but if you're using like these tools, you're looking to reduce your workflow. But for smaller scenes, ABLUR runs very smooth and feels responsive. But once you start working with those larger environments for like more complex scenes, then you're definitely going to notice some performance issues. Even in this small file that I'm using to create this wonky cemetery scene, you can see once I start with like the color options and the shadows with my computer. My computer is fairly good. I use it for like everything, but it starts to act kind of goofy around the shadows and such, right? So these enabler, these large files can feel sluggish, and then it just struggles with bigger files. But SketchUp can handle large, complex scenes much more reliably. And that matters if you're working on really big projects, especially if you're using like one file to build multiple scenes. Um, you don't you want it to load quickly because like I use SketchUp like every single day, and when I start it, I want to be able to run it, get what I need, and get going. So for heavier professional skill work, SketchUp is still the strongest tool to me. Now, this final part 5, is really important to me, and this is the community and documentation. Now, this last section is kind of, yeah, it has less to do with features and more about like long-term usability. So, all right, I've been part of the ABLUR community for this software for since like late last year, and SketchUp for longer than that because I've used that for a couple of years in my career. But let me just say that ABLUR takes a very hands-off approach to both community management and documentation. When ABLUR first launched, like for testers, the first installment of the Creators Club, onboarding was like very short, basic tutorials, just mostly like how to like open the program and do like really simple things, move around a scene, stuff like that. Beyond that, there is very, very little official documentation right now. There's no centralized tutorial hub, no structured learning path, just like no clear place to find like best practices of using ABLUR. And as a result of that, most of your in-depth learning is from community created content, like me. I'm just some rando with a mic from 1995 struggling to try to get these videos together for no reason. Because I just like to share my experiences with stuff. And that is an issue, especially because ABLUR, when they had the Creator Club, they suggested to post to multiple social media accounts. So you're having to look and search on multiple sites to find the answers that you need. And that can be really frustrating. And but that can be exciting for, like early adopters into the program because uh you have like more of a say. Like if you find bugs and stuff, you can report it on Discord, which is the only place right now that you're able to really communicate with ABLUR. Um it's it's painful. So yeah, information is definitely scattered, inconsistent, and difficult to find. Yeah, so because the staff engagement in on the Discord is so minimal, the conversations are largely shaped by the most vocal users instead of being like guided or led with expertise. It's mostly just people experimenting and sharing like what they've learned. But those voices, like questions and stuff, can get really quickly drowned out because in these same spaces, people are having like just general casual conversations too. So it can be hard to find answers. And some questions still just don't get answered. Um, yeah, so uh, in practice, this means like the community heavily reflects like its dominant user groups. Artists working outside of like webtoon focused workflows can might find it harder to get their answers or even to feel included because community is like a big deal in these kind of spaces, especially since like ABLUR is still really small. If you go in and you ask a question and then it never gets answered, then you're gonna feel like, oh, like you're gonna feel bad, right? Well, I will feel bad because I'm sensitive. But um, this definitely can impact learning. But this isn't about like individual creators. It's just more about the structure of the community. There's no like clear leadership or moderation. So the dynamics of the community can drift kind of towards like your in groups and then your out groups, and just people just stop asking questions. The people who lurk more just disengage. They don't want to come back, and the useful information get buried because it's not pinned. You have to search for it. If you don't know how to use Discord, or you're still new to it, because people are joining Discord every day, you're just gonna be like, you know what, whatever. I don't want to do it, right? So this is very different from communities like SketchUp, which has been around for years. And those are built around problem solving. So in those spaces, people don't care what you're making. They're not going to judge you on whatever. I'm not saying ABLUR's community does, but people in SketchUp, they don't care like what you're making. Like you could be making doorknobs. You're doorknob expert. Someone's going to tell you how to solve your doorknob problem. Am I right? But that's what it is. It's just like what you create matters far less than how you solve the technical issue. And for ABLUR, a tool that's just had its global release, strong documentation and like visible community guidance is not optional. It's like it is essential to especially the long-term health of the program, the software. And this right now is ABLUR's biggest weakness. Now, that doesn't mean that the software isn't promising, but it does mean that users should be prepared to do a lot of self teaching. And even though a lot of things are self explanatory, you're still going to have questions. You're still going to need help. And you're going to want an easy place to find that. And as of right now, there's not really a lot of video tutorials on how to do that, especially with people teaching. There's like guides, like visual guides or something like that, but then you have to like find them. And that can be frustrating because where are you going to find them? Oh, you might have to go onto the Discord, then you have to search for that. But guess what? Those pictures that you need might not be labeled, and then you're stuck. Anyway, hopefully this is something that will change in the future. It seems like a super easy thing to change to me, but hey, like I said, ABLUR just came out. It's plenty of room to grow. All right. Final conclusion. Is ABLUR worth replacing SketchUp? For most professional users, I'm going to be honest, not yet. For newer artists or hobbyists or anyone who just wants something easy, simple, and cheap, ABLUR could be a good option, and it does offer a demo. Personally, I'm using both. SketchUp still remains my go-to for those complex scenes and really big files, but while I still do use ABLUR like I'm using here with that window transparency, I love it. If it has the potential to keep improving if it keeps working on like performance and documentation and community support, hands-on community support from the ABLUR team. So essential. It's just like jarring to me, especially coming from SketchUp, where people like the moderators and the developers are so much more hands-on. ABLUR could be like so much better. But anyway, at the end of the day, tools, they don't exist in isolation. Their community and learning resources are just part of the product now. Like you absolutely need that. And yeah, that's all I have to say. I'm still gonna use SketchUp personally, like a lot. ABLUR is great if I need like to open something like really fast. Like I guess I think the difference to me is I need to just do a quick edit. Am I gonna open Microsoft Paint or am I gonna open Photoshop? Something like that, I guess. So yeah. Anyway, I hope this comparison was sort of helpful. And if it was, feel free to like or subscribe. If you have further questions that maybe I can help answer, please feel free to drop a comment. And I'll be continuing to cover ABLUR as it evolves. And I'm really excited to see what kind of tool it can be for comic artists like me. All right, thanks for watching.